Thanks for staying with us for this latest edition of the Broadway show. Glad you're here. Alex Edelman's Just for Us is now on Broadway. It's Alex's one-man show, exploring anti-Semitism and his Jewish roots. But it's way funnier than that description. Let's go ahead and check back in with Paul Wontorek.
Thanks, TAMSEN. Comedian Alex Edelman's solo show, Just for Us, is now playing at the Hudson Theater. I sat down with Broadway's newest star. Alex, here we are. The Hudson Theater. This is one of the fanciest venues. I mean, if you look at the bookings.
What do you mean one of? This is the fanciest
The
theater.
fanciest, recently renovated.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? I mean, you've played venues all over the world.
It's the oldest Broadway theater, weirdly, and the newest, which is like a nice little technicality. Firstly, the owner of the theater died in the Titanic. You don't have time for this, but like eventually they did the Tonight Show here, and Comedy Central did their Present series here. And so it has some serious comedy credentials, and I loved those Comedy Central Presents. And so, this is, I think, their first comedy sort of show, with great respect to Neil Simon, who is a comedy genius.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a very salubrious environment for a comedian.
People are eating up this show of yours. I sat in this house last night. The laughs are plentiful. You are so good at working an audience. I just love watching someone with that skill set who I've never seen you live before. You know, that's the interesting thing about Broadway. Like, somebody drops into the Broadway landscape, and Broadway sort of can accommodate a lot of different kinds of shows, so it's cool.
I think to say that it's been embraced by Broadway audiences. Broadway audiences have really found their way to the show, and it's been this wonderful thing. Not just, by the way, the audiences, but also like the casts of various shows like Parade and Sidney Brustein's Window and Goodnight Oscar have all sort of sent their best wishes, and it really is a wonderful community. And I was walking around the other day between shows, and I ran into a buddy of mine who's working on the One More Time show, and like it feels like a campus. Yeah. And so that's been really nice. And the audiences have been bananas. It is so cool, so wonderful. I'm learning so much about Broadway. I'm embarrassed of my blind spots. I've got a lot of blind spots. I thought Sondheim was a tiny horse. No, I'm just kidding. But like, I love all the stuff that I'm experiencing and learning. And it's, if you can't tell from the show, I love a new environment. And so this has been like the most special adventure, and the fact that reviewers and audiences and other artists have found their way to the show and enjoyed it, that it really has been, it's the most wonderful thing.
So we are dealing with a real thing that happened to you. What year did this actually?
End of 2017, beginning of 2018.
Okay. You somehow found yourself in an apartment in Queens, surrounded by a bunch of white nationalists.
Yeah, that's what I call them.
Or Nerf Nazis, you call them in the show.
I call them Nerf Nazis, yeah.
You're very clear about the specifics of words, and words matter, and descriptives, and the whole show is sort of built around this. How long were you actually in this room?
I think like almost 2 hours.
Wow, okay. Was there any point where you thought like, this could be a show on Broadway at the Hudson after Jessica Chastain's
Yeah, man,
done?
Absolutely. For sure. I didn't even think it was a show. I just started telling it to friends to try to make them laugh. And then my friend Danny was like, that might be stand-up. And then my director Adam was like, that might be the backbone of your show. That's why I talk to people, because I'm not smart enough to figure out anything on my own. I had this like anecdote that's like accidentally very interesting. Right. And all my friends were like, that's interesting. And I was like, okay. And then eventually someone's like, you should do something with that. I'm like, oh, maybe I will. So like, that's why I talk to people, is because they're like, you should probably go over there. I'm like, okay, I'll go over there. But yeah, I didn't think it was gonna be anything. Sometimes people ask if I went for material, and like, not really, but I kind of live my life thinking that, you know, maybe I'll have an insight that's worth bringing to the table or something worth talking about. I never go anywhere for the story, but I do live a life that, I've always wanted like a big life filled with like stories and newness and bizarre stuff. And so like, what's more bizarre than performing jokes that frankly are more suitable for like a comedy club in Wisconsin than like the nicest theater on Broadway with, you know, seats for human-sized butts. But yeah, sometimes I think curiosity is like my defining characteristic. I love to find new things, and that's why I talk to people also, is because what if someone has the answer? I don't know the question, but what if you accidentally find the answer? How many people in their lives have accidentally found the answer to what they were looking for? somewhere you would never like think to find it. So like, yeah, I'll go anywhere.
Do you see yourself being a regular on Broadway, a Mike Birbiglia? I mean, there's been a lot of great Broadway personalities. Is Broadway sort of important to your story, or is it just sort of the venue you're in right now?
I mean, I'd love to do it again. This thing is, I'm like soaking in every minute of it. I show up at this theater like 4 hours before, and I like putter around and like shoot baskets on the stage.
I love that.
When we're allowed to, and like snack and sleep and write and just be in the space. My director, who I did all my shows with, died.
I wanted to ask you about him unexpectedly just a couple months ago.
Yeah, my best friend, 11 years of collaboration. And so doing this show is like the best experience of my professional life and maybe even like personal life. It's very sweet. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's sweet because I'm so like present in it, because it's so, I hate how meaningful it is. I hate how meaningful everything is. And like if something happens that reminds me of him, I'm like, oh, he's here, you know, like.
Sure.
You know, I'm finding it very hard to imagine doing anything without him again. Whenever anyone's like, what's next? Part of me is like, I will get a job as a park ranger somewhere. And that's probably not what's gonna happen. I'll probably like write something else and move on and just be like another slightly credentialed work for hire adapting some beloved movie into a mediocre musical. But like, I hope that won't be the case. I hope I'll do good adaptations of good movies into good musicals. But I don't really know what I will do next. This may be my last solo show, maybe my first of 25 in the United States. This is my third one overall. Very proud of it, as I was proud of all of my work. Mm-hmm. I'd be lying if I said like, oh, absolutely, I'd love to be a mainstay on Broadway. I actually would love to be a mainstay on Broadway. I'm addicted to the community. I think the community is so special, and the people that I've met, some of them I'm convinced are gonna be like friends for the rest of my life. But yeah, I don't know what will happen.
Do you feel like you're doing the show every night in tribute to Adam?
I do feel closer to him sometimes doing the show, and sometimes that makes the day easier, and sometimes it makes it a little more challenging. But yeah, it is. Sometimes when I sit down and think about it, as I do a lot, I am doing on the highest stage possible, as far as I'm concerned, my last work with my best collaborator. So that's gotta count for something.